In Chapter 3, you talk about the leader's role in aligning costs with strategy.
Yes.
Tell us, how does that work? Is there a framework or process to follow for that?
Maybe I'll call 3 principles for CEOs or the executive team to follow. The first one is they need to make the case to the organization, energize the organization. Right? Any type of restructuring is scary. And people hear the word restructuring, they think of all sorts of nightmare scenarios, and which are sometimes true, not to undermine, minimize it, which are sometimes true that those fears are not completely unfounded. But so the CEO or the executive team must make the case for change and energize the organization. Why should the company, why should the people in the organization get behind this? Why is this the right thing to do? How do we know that this is different and this is going to work when we've tried something similar 10 times in the last 5 years maybe and we've been burned, and you're telling me now this is the right thing at this time and you finally figured it out? Tell me how this is going to work. It's a difficult case to make. You have to be really convincing to the organization, compelling, and it only comes through honest, candid, frank conversations with the organization, or acknowledging where you're starting from, giving a picture of where you're going, and why this is going to succeed now. So that's the first step. The second is then they must really restructure. That it cannot be about belt tightening or across-the-board cuts at 10%, and everybody must be true to the identity of the company, must play to the company's strengths, the differentiating capabilities, and take the cost out much more aggressively from places that matter less, so that it is indeed getting in shape. You are getting on that treadmill. You are lifting the weights. It's not just a crash diet and just for a week, I'm not going to eat anything and drop 5 pounds, right? It is going to make a difference. It's going to change who you are, what you do, and it is actually going to be sustainable. So you have to put the work in. And then you have to put the process behind it, that you have to go through it systematically. That's the third element, that you have to follow a robust, systematic process rather than an edict that says, we're taking 10% of cost out, find your bottom 10% of the employees and let them go in 3 months, right? That is just the crash diet that's calling for a disaster, and that's what a lot of companies are used to doing. And when the times get tough, they go after these across-the-board cuts that are drastic, but ultimately unsustainable, and that completely destroy the morale in the company. But when you go through a thoughtful process, when you evaluate the value of every spending item, how much is this one item supporting our growth ambitions and what we want to be in the future? And then you can make intelligent, thoughtful choices on, we're going to spend our money here, we're going to cut back here. And the organization sees it. Right? It is then not simply a slash and burn exercise, but an investment into the future of the company. As hard as it is for the people who are affected, it is a much more promising and hopeful and optimistic future for the people who are left in the organization.
All right. It's not just about going after employees. Oftentimes when you hear cost cutting or we're going to grow and we're changing, that's often what happens.
It is often a euphemism for taking 10% cost out, right? It is, and that's how leaders can destroy trust in the organization and morale in the organization. When employees see that beyond the fancy words, the actions are actually completely different, then that's when they lose trust and they lose hope and they lose their confidence in the leadership in the organization. And it doesn't only affect the people who are leaving, but also the people who are left behind. Why should I be loyal to this organization or this executive team?